symbol. And though I have the gift of prophecy, and understand all mysteries and all knowledge, and though I have all faith, so that I could remove mountains, but have not love, I am nothing. And though I bestow all my goods to feed the poor, and though I give my body to be burned, but have not love, it profits me nothing. Love suffers long and is kind. Love does not envy. Love does not parade itself. It is not puffed up, does not behave rudely, does not seek its own, is not provoked, thinks no evil, does not rejoice in iniquity, but rejoices in the truth. Amen.
Okay, happy Sabbath again, everyone. This morning I'm really not feeling well. My chest and my stomach hurt a lot. You know, but this song I will try to sing for you. Everybody can relate it to this song, so when I sing it, I hope and trust that you will take out your part and apply it in your daily lives. I don't know if this might sound even clear. Okay? If I can help somebody as I pass along, if I can cheer somebody with a word or a song, if I can show somebody that their traveling want, then my living shall not be in vain. Then my living shall not be in vain. Then my living shall not be in vain. If I can help somebody as I pass along, then my living shall not be in vain. If I can do my duty as a woman taught, if I can bring back beauty to a world that is lost, if I can tell God's message as a master taught, then my living shall not be in vain. Then my living shall not be in vain. Then my living pass along, then my living shall not be in vain. Then my living shall not be in vain.
Amen. Give me the definition of love. What's that? What's it look like? I mean, Paul did a pretty good job in the first 6 verses of chapter 13. But what does love look like? Now, I'm probably preaching to the choir. I don't know. But what does genuine love look like? Any answers? There's no right one.
Love has a lot of definitions.
What does love look like? It has a lot of definitions, yes, but what does love look like?
Love finds no joy in unrighteousness.
That's good. What does love look like?
Can't see love.
Long suffering.
Love is
It looks like Jesus hanging on.
There you go.
What?
Love is Jesus.
That's right. Yeah.
That was like too easy.
I'm coming apart at the seams.
No, they're just adding more bunnies.
Okay, well, Bill says I can shout enough anyway.
yeah, you're good at that. From the diaphragm.
I know I'm not all together, but am I all together?
You're all
Yes.
Okay. All right. So we come with Jesus as the focus, for Jesus is love. We were created in love.
That's right.
And the image of God is love. But Paul was concerned. He gave us the definition of what love is. You can have many talents. You can have the whole world by, I don't know, whatever it meant, the tail, I don't know. You can have everything. But if you don't have love, what's the point? How many, I mean, Paul really emphasized that, and Adria read it. Our love would be like a clanging. Have you ever been in a band when they warmed up? Disharmony, but they're all tuning up, right? And so what happens is we seem out of tune. Okay? The reason why Paul said that, he wants us to be in tune with God's love. God's love is to build one another up. Right? How do you do that? Well, Paul was concerned, so let's go to 1 Corinthians. It's 3 chapters past 13. 1 Corinthians 16.
Chapter 16?
Chapter 16, yes. Verse 1. Chapter 16, verse 1 in 1 Corinthians. My Bible always wants to open to Ephesians. Maybe that's an answer. Okay, 1 Corinthians. 16, and it says in what? Verse 1, it talks about, now, concerning the collection for the saint, and I have given orders to do to the churches of Galatia, so you must do also. But what he keeps talking about, what our duties are. as a Christian church. But he does say this, that we need to do what? He was concerned of the atmosphere. What was the atmosphere that was happening in church?
Crosstalk.
What?
Crosstalk.
Crosstalk? That's a good idea. What was he happening? People were putting people down.
Gossiping.
They were gossiping. Exactly. Read 16. It talks about you can do everything. That's what he said in Corinthians 13. But he talks about the gossiping, wagging our tongues, because it is an effective door, as you take a look at. Therefore, let no one desire, in verse 11, no one despise him, but send him on his journey in peace, that he may come to me, for I am waiting for him to return. Now, concerning our brother Apollos, he talks about his mission that he was doing with other people. He was talking about encouraging one another. And when you take a look at being encouraged with one another, what usually happens? How does it feel when you're encouraged?
Oh, feels great.
Does it make you feel good?
It's unexplainable. It's just such a joyous feeling that it just puts you on a high, and there's no word for it.
That's pretty good. Anything else? I like that answer.
Well, it helps the person that you're encouraging. If they're, they're discouraged, then that's going to help them up, and they're going to have a more positive view of things as well. So it's helping one and both. But the idea is to help the other person, that you lift it up out of their despair.
Good. What else? Attracting what love is.
Supporting that person with praise and prayer, and your love and your faith in Jesus, giving that to them. Uplifting, positive reinforcement that things are going to get better.
Anybody else? Yes. Passion. Compassion. Passion too. Compassion. We read through the the New Testament in the Gospels, where we see Jesus what? After looking at people, he had compassion upon the multitude. Right?
Right.
Yes, Nick.
Acceptance.
Acceptance. That was a rephrase a few years ago in the 1980s. I don't know if somebody still remembers that, but they had a motto for some of the churches was love, acceptance, and what? Forgiveness. Am I the only one that's old? They had it on the bulletin. I remember in a church in Oregon. And they had on the bulletin, we practice love, acceptance, and forgiveness. And that's what Christ did. He loved us from the mire we were in. And some of us are still mired. And we have things that perhaps bring us down. But we love one another. We have acceptance. Now I want to have, because Paul was worried about fractions in the church. He said all this stuff in 1 Corinthians 13. I will not read it all, but if you go for the first 6 verses, it talks about I message of I. And then he goes from verse 16 to about 12, where he talks about what Jesus does and is. That love is this, love is this, love is this. And then he closes it up by, please, we see through a glass eye darkly, but when we see the love of God clear, we will make no mistake that we've been in the fellowship with Jesus Christ. So it's I, Jesus, and what we do. Okay. Did he say it was going to be perfect at the end of the chapter? No, he said we now see what? Through a glass? Darkly. But when we see Jesus face to face, everything becomes clear. But he taught us how to love. Now, James, the brother of Jesus, wrote James. And so let's go to James 3, verse 12. 3, 1 to 12.
What book?
This is the brother of Jesus. James, right after Hebrews. Hebrew, James.
What's in chapter 3?
Chapter 3. Say amen when you're there. Amen. Okay, let's start. My brethren, let not many of you become teachers, knowing that we shall receive a stricter judgment. For we all what? Stumble. We all stumble in many things. If anyone does not stumble to the word, he is a what? Perfect man. Is anybody here perfect?
No.
No. But if it doesn't stumble, you're a perfect man. He is, and also he's able to bridle the whole body. Indeed, we put bits in horses' mouths, okay, that they may obey us, and we turn their whole body. It also talks about, look also at the ships. Although they are so large and are driven by fierce winds, they are turned by a what? Very small rudder, wherever the pilot desires. Even so, the tongue is a little member that does what? And boasts great things. See how great a forest is when a fire is kindled. In other words, you see a big forest, fire is kindled by with a little spark. And the tongue is a fire, a world of iniquity. The tongue is set among ourselves, that it defiles the whole body and sets on fire the course of nature, and is set on fire by what? Wow. Basically, James is saying, don't run your mouth. No. I dare ask the question.
Watch what you say.
How many of you know someone who runs their mouth?
I do.
I didn't expect a hand, but you know people that tend to run their mouth.
Yeah.
Exactly. How many of you run your mouth too much?
Yeah.
Oh man, we're getting there, aren't we? We tend to run our mouth too much too as well. And how many have gotten how many people have gotten in trouble running your mouth? See, Paul was concerned about that. That's why he wrote so many times about what we should be doing in love and compassion. That's why he wrote 13. You know, we use a lot of words over our lives, don't we? Think about these things. How about the Lord's Prayer? 56 words. The Gettysburg Address. 260 words. Okay, that's words. 10 Commandments. 297 words. Declaration of Independence. 300 words. And you know what? A U.S. government order. to set the price of cabbage. 26,111 words.
Oh, my stars.
That sounds like a government.
Not trying to cause a riot out there, folks. But you see where I'm getting. What needs to be said needs to be short and concise. It has been said and estimated that most people speak enough in 1 week. Most people speak enough in 1 week to fill up a large 500-page book. A side note is, remember when John said if I had to write everything that Jesus did, there wouldn't be enough paper to handle it. Well, just thinking right here, he must have said a lot of stuff, which is love. But what is really interesting, and it's been estimated that over the lifetime, you would have 3,000 volumes of 500, the words you used. That's the words. That's more than 1.5 million pages.
Of gibberish.
Well, some people have knowledge, but we won't digress.
Well, that's right.
And remember that Jesus knows your thoughts, right?
Oh,
He knows the words you say. Exactly. And guess what? All of these will be there, every idle word or anything else, as it says in Matthew 12, 36 and 37. And I tell you this, it says in that. It says this. And I tell you this, you must give an account on Judgment Day for what? Every idle word you speak. Right? One of the definitions of idle words is gossip. Another is slander. Why am I preaching about this? Because I have seen it happen in our very own congregation. You know, do we build one another up, or do we cut one another down? You've probably heard about sticks and stones. How many remember that? Sticks and stones may
break my bones,
But-
but names will never hurt me.
But they do, don't they?
Yes, over time
Over time.
and repetition.
How do you feel when somebody says, you're pretty stupid?
I resemble that remark, so I'm okay with it.
We'll pray for you, brother.
Yeah.
But you know, we've been exposed to words, right? How do you feel? You feel hurt. What else do you feel?
You can get like
I get angry
self-esteem.
sometimes.
all kinds of stuff.
Self-esteem, you get angry. What else?
Depressed.
Just sets in your soul.
It does, doesn't
And
it?
it undermines your worth, your
Right, in one ear, out the other.
self-confidence. And if it started at a young age, it can define you. And
Good
it's a hard
point.
thing to overcome. If you don't.
And it happens. It happens. You have experiences that tend to bring us down. Who wants to worship a God when I'm totally hurt? But God says you're going to go through it. He does. But he says, I love you. Don't believe what the other people are saying. Because it says also in James that you are my children. Don't listen to it. Build one another up. Even if you don't want to. It's pretty easy to what? Love your neighbor. How about your friends, fellow church members? Or maybe not, I don't know. But he says to love your enemies. And those enemies have hurt you. And they defined who you are. Thank God for Jesus. Thank God for Jesus. He said you are what? My sons and daughters. You are my children. You are my children. When people start cutting you down or gossiping or anything else, you cannot take it personally. How many have taken it personally? We all have. Because, as she said, defines who you are. And so how do we come to a resolution that no matter what people, places, or things define us, we need to turn it over to Jesus. That's easier said than done. It is easier said than done. Believe me. I know that. Because James was also talking about, as we read in from 6 on to 12, and I will read that, it says this. It says, for every kind of beast and bird, of reptile and creature of the sea, who is tamed and has been tamed by mankind. Now, why would he throw that in there? Because we know how to control animals, perhaps, maybe not. I know I have a dog that doesn't obey at all. But usually we tell them to obey us, and they usually do. They usually do. But no man can tame the what? How many have had something slip out and and you can't take it back? Can you? So how do you make amends for something they did? You can say you're sorry, but God has to work on that heart. And really work on our own hearts when we allow things to come out. But no man can tame the tongue. It is an unruly evil, full of deadly poison. Wow. You've heard of people say, she or he sure is speaking venom. Have you? Yeah. You know, spewing venom. That's what he's talking about. It says, with it we can bless God and the Father, and with it we can do what? Curse men who have been made
God's likeness.
in God's likeness. See, when you discover what's happening with that other person, whether they're doing it to us, that's still a child of God. That was hard for me to believe. And then put it to heart. No matter what happens to us, that person is still what? God's child. That's what we call undying love that Jesus gave. He gave it to us. You should have it in your mouth to only say good things, right? That's what it says. Out of the mouth proceed blessings and cursing. My brother, in verse 10 it says, my brother, these things out what? Not to be so. Period. Does a spring send forth fresh water and bitter from the same opening? Can a fig tree, my brother, bear olives? Of a grapevine bear figs? No. There is no spring that yields both salt and water and fresh. In other words, you can't do it together. Speak out both sides of your mouth. Both sides of your mouth. See, you're fighting what? Principalities and powers of darkness. And that's why, as it was shared in the Revelation class, we need to be 24/7, because we were warned that things would happen that believed in Jesus Christ. Have you ever noticed that small things make a big impact? You know what I mean by that? I think Brother Jim, when he had the sermon here, remember? When we wanted to make sure everybody had something nice to say. And they gave roses out and stuff. Remember that?
Yes.
What did it make you feel?
Uplifting. It's nice.
Didn't what?
Special.
Special. Right? Or not? Perhaps some of us say, okay, what do they want? Now you just turn the gift into a curse. But to accept what people say and face value and not take it personally means that you are growing. You know that there are more hearts and strokes and cancer cells and tumors and devils in your shoe that happen to irritate you. What he's saying is, don't let that happen. A tongue needs to be tamed. A tongue needs to be tamed. We talked about the rudder, talked about the horse's bit. Who's in charge of the rudder of our lives?
Jesus.
And the horse's bit. Exactly. So overall, what James is saying in this application is to remember that the words you have can impact us positively and negatively. We talked about temptation that will always be a part of life, right? We all stumble in many ways. It happens to all of us at times. The tendency is to lay blame on other people. Perhaps when we were discussing, we can find it easier to blame God when we're tempted to allow ourselves to be hurt. That's a very heavy statement I just made. Do we allow ourselves to be hurt?
Sometimes.
Yeah. It doesn't feel good. But if we allow ourselves to take what people said, like Lisa, I believe somebody said that it will affect you the rest of your life, and value your self-worth, then I've heard it happen. We start blaming God. Right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We start blaming God. How come you allowed this to happen? How come are they doing this to me? How come? Why? That's where you get so much, where it's easier to blame God, because we were taught, but we don't believe, that God is love.
It's love.
That God is love. God is love. So when you take a look at this and realize who God is, We need to tame our tongue so we don't criticize, we don't do off-color jokes, we don't gossip, we don't slander, we don't criticize other people. This is bad language. Another one is boasting. Right? Did that talk about that in 1 Corinthians 13? We boast. That hurts too, because when you're listening to somebody else boast, then you start questioning yourself, am I not that good? Right? I've seen that when we've had witnessing issues. Well, I can't do it as good as he or she can. And there's some that said, yeah, you know, I gave 4,500 Bible studies in the last year and I baptized 3,000 of them. She said, who's counting? You see what I'm saying? Is the fact we get guilty of boasting. Look what I've done. And when we do that and share it among the brethren, nobody wants to do anything. Right? Because they can't do it good enough. Perhaps some of us have been in a place where it says, why can't you be like? Statements. And so as you take a look at this, we need to take a look that we are breaking God's heart. Our words need to glorify everyone. Glorify everyone, and also it says to glorify God. It's very hard to say something nice to somebody you don't like, isn't it?
Sometimes.
Huh?
Yes, it is difficult.
It is. And yet we're supposed to do it. Like I said, Jim did a very good service. We felt pretty good when we each got a flower. Right?
Yes.
That's what is needed. Even though you may have issues with that person. But what we need to do is take, if you have an issue with somebody, go to them. Because what I don't like, and a lot of other people don't like that I've talked with, they don't want to hear hearsay. Right? Hey, did you hear what Jennifer did? You got to see the ears perk up. That can be hurtful, isn't it? It can be hurtful. Looks like I'm running out of juice, Nick. Okay, so right uses of words is when you lift one another up. Remember, whatever we say, does it build them up or knock them down? Does it build them up or knock them down? In Ephesians 4:29, wrap this up. It says, no foul language should come from your mouth. We're not talking swearing and cursing, but no foul mouth should come out of our mouth, but only what is good for building up someone in need. Nothing should come out of our mouth but for building someone in need, so that it gives grace. So it gives grace to those who what?
Needed it.
Here, and needed it. Paul, like I said, was struggling in the churches too. Grace that someone needs it. You never know when a person needs it. Right? We need to proclaim the good news. 2 Timothy 4:5 talks about it. Do the work of an evangelist. Each one of you do the work. Have you ever noticed an evangelist? You go in a big arena, how many people is he reaching? You don't know, but we're supposed to spread that love to others. We are all evangelists, spreading that love. What a huge privilege it is. It is a huge privilege that God has given us all as Christ followers to announce the good news of God's love, especially. So in conclusion, really it's not a tongue issue, is it? I can speak pompous words that some people do, especially Daniel, but that's another note. But we can lift up one another in spirit and in truth. There's a story, I don't know if anybody knows this again, it's in the 70s and 80s. How many remember Captain Antonio?
Oh, yeah.
When she was, why she died? She died because of heart failure brought on by years of self-abuse from an eating disorder. It is further said that she was known as Richard, which is the captain, and the chubby sister. Richard called her that. She believed that. And so when we take a look at proclaiming the good news, the only thing we can say is this: we love you. And there was a saying back then too, right? Smile, God loves you, and what? Man, I'm really dating myself this time. God loves you, and so do I. Exactly. And really mean it. No matter what. This is a heart issue, not a tongue issue. We cannot blame the tongue what comes out. It's what's in our heart that goes out. So where are you at, all of you, today?
75% maybe?
Well, I hope not. Says, do you need Jesus? This is where you're at. Where are you at today? I don't know where you are at in the walk of Christ. To build one another up and love one another. Do you need Jesus to save me today?
Every day. Sometimes every hour.
Do you? Every day? Perhaps some of you are saying, I need to join this family, the family of God, that loves one another, encourages one another. Or perhaps some of us need today, I need to repent and return to the fellowship with Jesus. I don't know where you're at. Perhaps you've been hurt. From my heart, and I'm sure 99.9, see, there's no 100. There's a 0.9 somewhere.
Right here.
Oh, not me. 99.9 people are enjoying the love of God. Right? We're enjoying. I want to have that fellowship. Is God calling you to the ministry? Yes. Each and every one of you. the ministry of sharing God's love. Perhaps some of us need to ask forgiveness and use your words of forgiveness to others. We need to pray for one another. We need to build up one another. And as Chelsea said, but she didn't write the words, but the music was good. If I could help somebody along what? Life's way, then my living will not be in vain. May you be blessed today. I think we have a closing song. Okay. The choristers and the musician, please come forward. We have a closing song.